Hi.
Hey everybody.
How's it going? Welcome to this very special live stream where we're going to talk about something that's very dear to my heart.
Yes.
And obviously Andrew's right now at the moment, and that's acoustic guitar.
That's right. So today we're going to be talking about the 5 pillars of the acoustic guitar, something Nate's talked about a whole bunch before in the past. But we're going to kind of dive into it a little bit, talk about it, and then also we'll be taking questions. So this is just on, I believe, Facebook and YouTube. So I think, I think that's where we're streaming right now exactly. So you can submit questions in the YouTube chat. You can also submit questions in the Facebook chat. And we're going to grab as many as we can. We're not going to have unlimited amounts of time, but we're going to grab as many as we can, and then we'll answer them. So we're trying to keep it a little bit on acoustic guitar, but if it's about something else, that's perfectly fine, and we'll probably answer it anyway.
Rapid fire as soon as we're done.
Exactly. Cool. So to start, we're going to play a little tune.
And this is dedicated to Daphne18 in the Guitareo forum because she asked a question on this the other night. I've never played the song before, but I went and pulled up the Bob Dylan version of Blowin' in the Wind and figured it out. Capo, everything just like the original one. So we'll play a little bit of that and Andrew will noodle over it.
Sounds good.
Let's see. That's one of the best things about the acoustic guitar, like just 4 chords, all that song was, like a really fundamental, rudimentary kind of fingerstyle pattern, and then just the genius of Bob Dylan's writing. And you can sit here and play with a friend and make great music. That's one of the best things about acoustic guitar. I didn't need anything except my guitar, and I needed a capo because of that, but I didn't have to have it. I could have played it without a capo using different
But we're not plugged in anything?
Nope.
This is just microphones picking this up?
We're just live streaming across the planet right now, that's all. Yeah. But it doesn't matter. It's so cool, you can just grab it and go wherever you want.
Yeah? Yeah. Acoustic guitar is pretty cool. Okay, well, it looks like there's already questions coming in, but before we do that, I'm going to try and grab them early on, so you might see me kind of over on this computer copying them over so that I don't lose them. But we will just start talking about maybe what the 5 pillars are.
Sure.
The 5 pillars of acoustic guitar, what those are, and then we'll kind of give you tips for each one, and hopefully that helps you out. Okay, let's do it.
This is something that's been kind of formulating, over, I don't know, probably almost 20 years. Probably about 15 to 20 years, because when I worked at a music store, I noticed people struggling with the same stuff over and over and over again and being frustrated and maybe even quitting the guitar over and over and over again. And it was just reiterated when I started doing guitarlessons.com and guitareo.com because the volume of the amount of guitar players that I interact with on a daily basis just multiplied exponentially. And it seems like the things that take people out of the game on acoustic guitar, or just guitar in general, same 5 things over and over again. And if you can get those things down, then you have a much better chance of succeeding at the guitar and playing the music that you want to play and enjoying it instead of being frustrated by it. And those 5 things are, and this may seem simple, but this is actually true. The first one is strumming. The second one is clean sounding chords, not having buzzy chords. Number 3 is clean chord transitions, changing between chords smoothly. Number 4, and this is one that even people that have been playing for sometimes years can't do, and that's play through complete entire songs. And then number 5 is understanding a little bit of music theory.
That's right.
Yep.
Okay, well, should we just get right into the very first one and maybe talk about it, some tips?
Sure.
Like that?
A lot of people get frustrated with the guitar because they're like, I can't seem to hold on to the pick when I strum, or if they get the basic technique of strumming down, they feel like they can't figure out the strumming patterns in their favorite songs or come up with their own strumming patterns to match whatever song they're trying to play to or to match what their friends are playing to. And I'm just going to give you a couple of tips for basic strumming technique, because if you can't do that, you're not even going to get to the point where you can figure out strumming patterns, right? So one of the biggest things that I see people do is grip the pick way too tight and then tense up when they play. And if I do that, I can't even get the pick. I'm exaggerating here. I can't even get the pick through the strings, right?
Yeah.
So and I have a very thick pick that I'm playing with. So if you relax and kind of loosen up And don't have a death grip on the pick. Like, I'm gonna do my best to have the same amount of tension. Pull that out of my hand. Pretty easy.
Oh, yeah. Super easy.
If you try to relax and kind of flick your hand like this instead of locking your wrist and just strumming from your elbow, that's gonna help you relax a little bit, and then getting this rotational movement and loosening up your grip on the pick just to where you're holding onto it enough to where it doesn't fly out of your hand. And what happens is when you get a relaxed grip on the pick, it kind of gives, I'm exaggerating here too, it gives as you go through the strings and just kind of glides instead of staying like this, you know, really tough and rigid. When you have a relaxed grip, the pick gives and just glides through.
Right.
So that's the biggest thing. Start doing that. Just be aware of how tightly you're gripping the pick and whether you're tensing up and locking your wrist when you strum. You can still use your elbow, but keep this rotational movement like this and keep a relaxed grip on the pick. And a lot of people complain that when they do that, the pick flies out of their hands. One thing I would suggest doing is holding onto the pick with 2 fingers at the beginning just to get some extra control.
Yeah, that's smart.
And I can hold on to it even lighter when I use 2 fingers. I mean, I don't always do that. Depends on what I'm playing. Sometimes I use 1. But doing those things and just working on some basic downstrokes like that will help you get this first pillar of playing down. And then you can move on to other tips for figuring out strumming patterns in songs and coming up with your own strumming patterns.
Yeah, nice. I don't want to, we won't break it up with questions, but I will remind everybody, you can submit your questions in chat here. We already have a bunch.
Okay, cool.
But there's a bit of a stream delay. So if you wait for us to say, okay, we're taking questions now, then all of a sudden, like it's quite delayed. So I just don't want to miss anybody's questions. So you can feel free to get your questions in now, and then we'll answer them when Nate's done this.
Okay, cool. Second pillar of playing the guitar is just being able to make clean chords that don't sound buzzy like this. And the C chord is probably the worst one for most players in general. Making a C chord that sounds like this, right, with dead notes in it, is really tough at first because there's a lot of new things going on that you have to kind of teach your body and your hand how to deal with on the guitar. But there are some very simple things that you can do to make learning how to play clean chords an attainable goal for yourself. The first thing I would recommend doing is getting your guitar up a little bit higher, either with a strap or a footstool. These chairs are very low to the ground, so I really don't need one. I feel like I already have a footstool up here because if I just tilt it up a little bit, normally if I'm sitting on a normal chair, it's probably down here.
Yeah, makes
this
sense.
chair, if you get it up a little bit with a footstool, telephone book, whatever it is, strap, that'll help put the guitar in a better position to make these clean chords. And then it'll make all the other tips that I'm about to tell you a little bit easier. So the number one thing, or not the number one thing, but the first thing, I guess, is to make sure that your fingers are right behind the frets when you're trying to play these chords. Not on top of them and not toward the middle or the back. If they're toward the middle or the back, you're gonna get a really buzzy sound. If it's right behind the fret, you're gonna get the best chance to make a nice clean sound. And if the guitar's up, you're gonna be able to get your elbow in a little bit and to get a better angle of attack on that fret. So you're not muting that high E string, that neighboring string. Because that's one thing, you could have this note be real clean, but what about the note next to it? Is your finger muting it? And having the guitar up a little higher, putting your elbow in, and coming down to the very tip of your finger, right behind the fret, all kind of work together to help you get a really good angle of attack on that string to where you're not muting the neighboring string and you're getting a really clear tone out of the string that you're fretting. So those things kind of all work together. I kind of blew through them really quickly, but those are the tips that work to help you play clean chords on the guitar. Let me see if I'm forgetting any. I don't think so. I think that's it for that. But that sounds really simple. But what you need to do is if you're having trouble with a particular chord, go down that checklist. Guitar up a little bit, finger right behind the frets, elbow in a little bit, right on the very tip of your finger. And then put the chord on, go through each note one at a time. And if you hear something like this, go through that checklist again. Okay, my elbow, my wrist is out that way a little bit, so pull my elbow in, my wrist straightens out a little bit. Put the guitar up a little higher, fingers right behind the frets. And it will take time to get better at this. You have to train your body to, do these little minute details and, get the dexterity in your fingers. But if you go through that checklist, spend 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes every day on the chord that's giving you trouble, that will help a lot.
Very nice. Onward and forward, just keep trucking through them.
Coffee break.
Sounds good. This is great, guys. There's a ton of questions. I don't know. Well, I'm gonna have to be very picky with the ones that I choose because all of a sudden they just came flying in.
Inundate him.
It is perfectly okay.
Break his bank. Okay, the next thing is the number one thing that I see take people out of the game as far as getting going on the acoustic guitar, and that is changing between chords smoothly. And rightfully so, I guess, because there's a lot going on. You have to strum, you have to think about this chord shape that you're trying to play, you have to think about the next chord shape, and then you have to make the switch. That's a lot going on. But if you work on kind of these first three pillars individually, work on your strumming first, then work on clean chords by themselves, then work on trying to change between chords smoothly, that's going to help a lot. And the first tip for changing between chords smoothly is make sure to have the individual chord shapes you're trying to switch between down very well before even trying to switch between the two chords. So if I'm trying to switch between a C and a G, and I'm still going to a C chord like this, just one finger at a time, but I'm trying to play along to a song that uses C and G, it's going to be just an exercise in frustration because you can barely get the C on there, and then it's time to switch to the G, and then you have to get that on there, right? So make some concerted effort every day for a few days, a few weeks, however long it takes, a month, to work on getting that C chord so we can go to it on its own without even having to think about it hardly. And at first, it's going to be one finger at a time, and that's okay. But eventually, you're going to want to get to where, when your hand starts to go to the guitar, that C is already being made, right? And it takes time, but if you apply the tips for those clean chords, it will work. And also work on the other chord that you're trying to switch between, just G on its own, for example. You need to get to where you can go to that G by itself. And then, and only then you should start trying to switch between the two chords. You'll have a much easier time. It may not be the most fun practice in the world, but it will be a lot easier because you will have tackled the C on its own and the G on its own. Then you can put them together. So first tip for changing between chords smoothly, learn the individual chord shapes first. Second tip is only work on two chords at a time at first. So once you have the C and the G down, just work on trying to switch between them. Just C and G. Not C, G, D, and E minor, even though they all go together nicely. Just work on C and G by themselves. Once you have that down, add a different chord in. You can try C and D. But make sure you have that D chord shape down first so we can go right to it before trying to switch between it. And when you're trying to switch between two chords, there are things you can do as far as like being aware and present in the moment that will help you to make that chord change faster. So if you're playing a G chord, be really aware of what you're doing. Think about the way that next chord looks, think about the way that next chord feels, think about that C chord, and then make a switch. The more ways you can attack something to kind of conquer it, the better or easier it's going to be for you. So those three things, learn the individual chord shapes first, only work on two chords at a time, and then just be really mindful of where you are in your chord progression. Think about the next chord, the way it looks and feels, and then make the switch.
Very cool.
I'm going to tune this guitar.
Yeah, that's perfectly good. We have a lot of questions so far. We'll start answering them now.
Sure.
Before you continue.
The last two tips, I mean,
are they pretty quick? Because they're not really tips as much.
They're not really tips. They're just points that you need. They're pillars, right? And they're things that you need to do. That, like, if you work on pillars 1, 2, and 3, pillars 4 and 5 are going to be so much easier for you. They're just going to kind of naturally fall into place in your practice time. Yeah. Number 4 is learn complete songs. And this is one thing that a lot of people fall short on. And like I said, I've met guitar players that have been playing for years and can't play through an entire song. It's probably because they didn't really get the first 3 pillars down as good as they should have, so they're frustrated with the 4th pillar learning songs.
Right.
So if you get those first 3 things down, you can set some goals to learn 2 or 3 songs and then just attack them, and that's what you do in your practice time, right? Yeah. So learning full songs is super important.
Probably the most motivating.
It is the most motivating thing because you can actually make music and sit down with Andrew, sit down with your friend and play through a song.
I mean, when you and I started that, you said, hey, I've got this song, and I was like, I can't remember that song. You just played the chords and I played along.
Yeah, I was like, you don't need to worry about it. It's just like, it's a 1-4-5. This is a great segue into the last point. Thank you, Andrew. It's a 1-4-5 in the key of E major. You don't need to know the song. You can just improvise with the scales that you know, right?
Totally. Yeah, exactly.
And that leads me into the 5th pillar, which is just learning a little bit of music theory. So when you sit down with somebody like me and Andrew did today, then you have enough understanding of how music works so you can kind of get by and fly by the seat of your pants enough and make some educated choices about what chords you're playing, what scales you're using to play over chords, things like that.
One of the great things, one of the funny things about guitar, it's great, it's good and it's bad, is that you can get by with minimal theory knowledge compared to other instruments because of things like tabs and stuff like that. But that basic fundamental level of music theory, which really doesn't take an insane amount of time to learn, right? It's just like being guided in the right direction and just knowing what it is you need to learn. It can take you as far as you need to go, right? It's the theory that most of the great players like Stevie Ray Vaughan and people that didn't traditionally read sheet music, instead they kind of employed that type of music theory knowledge instead.
But those are the 5 things you need to concentrate on if you've been wanting to play guitar forever and you're like, I don't know if I can do it, or if you've tried before and feel like you failed. These are the 5 things that you need to work on, because every guitar player has to know them, has to go through it at some point, whether you're playing acoustic or electric, or whatever style of music you want to play, doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And we won't talk about this yet, but that's kind of like the whole basis of, which you've probably heard, Acoustic Guitar Made Easy, which is Nate's new course. The whole thing is based on these 5 pillars, and we're going to go into questions now, but at the end we're going to talk about it a little bit just so you can understand how exactly Nate would teach those 5 pillars kind of in the best way he possibly can. So anyways, we'll get to that in a bit, but for now there's so many questions. Nate?
Good job, guys.
Yeah, wow. So we are going to, they're going to be kind of rapid fire. We're going to have to move through them pretty quick. Yeah, prepare yourself. But if we're here a little longer, that's totally fine too. Okay, the first one here is from Amar. How do I know when to change my strings, and how do I clean my fretboard?
Okay, I always go by 3 things for your strings. I go by how they sound, how they look, and how they smell. I guess you can go feel too, so that's 4 things. If they sound really good, bright, nice, these strings are kind of on their last leg.
Yeah, they sound about in the middle of kind of where I would have them.
If they sound kind of dark and thuddy, then it's time to change your strings. If they smell like rust, then it's time to change your strings. If they feel like rust, then it's time to change your strings. If they look just all tarnished and dirty, then it's time to change your strings. I rarely go, if I'm playing a guitar regularly, I rarely go more than 2 or 3 weeks without changing strings.
Is it the same for acoustic and electric?
For me it is.
Okay.
But I play a lot, so you might use, some people could double that easily.
For sure.
1.5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is it's not just playing, right? It's like playing adds like your little skin cells and sweat and all that gross stuff, and then time on top of that is kind of a catalyst. Yeah. And then so even if you don't play, let's say maybe you play once a week, which I don't recommend, but you play once a week, and you would think, oh, well, mine will last 7 times longer than someone who plays every day. It's not necessarily true, right?
It depends on your body chemistry. It depends on where you live, how humid it is. My strings up here in BC, Canada, last way longer than they did in Houston, Texas.
Okay,
because it's so much more humid. Yeah.
Right, right. So that all factors. The biggest thing is knowing there's no hard and fast rule. I know personally, it's always the same thing. It's the feel of them. If there's like black on my fingertips, that's always kind of a common one too.
If your friends are afraid of getting tetanus from touching your guitar, then you need to change your strings. Yeah.
Yeah, that is scary, but I've seen some nasty looking guitar strings out there. Okay, anyways, we gotta go fast. Okay, Stellar says, how do I do pull-offs?
Pull-offs, okay. So there's 2 ways to attack this, and I'll just do it on the high E string. 7th and 5th fret. So put your 3rd finger on the 7th fret of the high E. And here's the most common way. Have your 1st finger set up on the 5th fret, already fretting there. So once you play this note with your 3rd finger down, all you have to do is pull down like that. So what literally all I'm doing is kind of plucking the string while keeping my thumb planted on the back of the fretboard. So just pull. I like to think of it just kind of plucking the string like this. Yeah, so pick, pull. But your index finger is already back here on this fret, so when you pull, this note's gonna ring out too.
It's so important to note that you're not going just straight out. Yeah. You're actually pulling
I'm not doing this. This is a big mistake people make, because when you do that, when you pick the string and you just lift off, you do get sound still.
Yeah.
But it's not strong enough, so don't do that. Pull down. Another thing you can do to kind of give it a little bit different feel or sound is do a hammer-on with your index finger, or whatever finger you're doing the next note on. That gives it a little bit different feel, a little bit different vibe.
Very good. Next one from Trenton. Can you tune the guitar to a different key?
Yep, there are lots of different like altered and open tunings. I was just telling Andrew I have to play with my wife, and I have to put 13 gauge strings on this guitar because I have to down tune everything a whole step to D standard. Yep. And if I did that with these 12 gauge strings on, that would be super rattly and kind of not sound very good. So I have to put heavier strings on, down tune. Now there are altered tunings like Dadgad. There are open tunings like open C and open D that you can experiment with. And there's loads of information about there on all those. But you can do that. I mean, tuning it to a different key, I guess the best example of that would be like open C or open D.
That's right.
Yeah.
The big thing to remember is that you can play in any key in any tuning, technically.
Yep.
It's just the shapes that go with those, and you just have to learn those. So if you're planning on playing in lots of different keys, I'd suggest bar chords or what we love to call a capo.
Capo, yeah.
Which this actually nails two birds with one stone, because someone else was asking about what is a capo.
Capo is this little thing right here, and all it is, like this is the nut of your guitar. This is the the termination point that determines what pitch your string vibrates at when you play it open, right? Let's say, let's use a very simple example. Let's say I'm playing a song in the key of E. And the singer's like, that's way too low for me. Can you raise that up a whole step? While on acoustic, you might not want to be playing in F sharp all night. With bar chords, it's a little tough. So what we can do is use this capo, just like a movable nut of the guitar, to play open chord shapes in the key of F sharp. And all I'm doing there, I'm using that little mechanical capo thingy to make this bar right here. So I don't have to do it with my index finger the entire time. That's all a capo is, super useful. And the reason I was using it at the beginning of this broadcast was so I could get C chord shaped sounds. So using the C shape, but playing a different key, the key of E. Right? That's another reason. Those two reasons are like the most common, I think, for capos. Cool.
Beautiful. All right, next one here. This one is from somebody called 100K subs
100K
with one video challenge. Oh, okay, I see what you're doing with your name. That's funny. Tips on strumming with just your fingers.
Oh, I've been doing it more and more this lately just because I've been finding myself doing fingerstyle stuff, and sometimes I'll need to do strumming. So I literally just pretend like I have a pick in my hand, in my fingers, and just strum. Now, I'm not the best at that because I don't do it a lot, but I can still hit the bass notes with my index finger when I come down.
Yeah. Nice.
And my thumb is just kind of fattening it up, making it a little bit more robust sounding. So I do it the same way that I would with a pick.
Yeah.
I've seen, what's her name, Lauryn Hill.
Okay, just use just the thumb.
My grandpa used to play like that too. But when I'm doing that, I'm still kind of thinking the same mentality.
Yeah.
I'm just not pinching my finger, right? And they all get three different sounds. It's a little bit subtle, but they all get different sounds. Thumb, finger and thumb, and then using a pick.
I know a really common one, this is like the John Mayer one, is the thumb and pointer finger thing, which I use when I'm...
Oh, like the do-da, do-da. That's one thing I'm not good at.
So you can see my thumb hits those low notes, and then just the one or two fingers are hitting the other ones. That's like a really common one that you'll see as well. It's a little more kind of out there, but I find it pretty easy to get into.
I find a lot of really good folk singer-songwriters that I've seen use that.
Okay, yeah, it does seem like a folk technique for sure. Next question here. You know what? I'm going to grab some from Facebook really quick.
Cool.
This one is from David L. So asking about bar chords. Please show placement of your index finger. How far does it extend, if any, past the low E and A strings?
Okay, it's different depending on what I'm playing. So there's my normal like E shape. Now if I switch to an A shape, my finger stays in the same spot. If I'm switching between those two. But if I go straight to an A shape, my finger is a little bit different. It extends to maybe just the edge of the high E string, but if I'm going straight to an E, it's maybe a 1/4 inch over. the low E string, David. Yeah. And I find it changes depending on what I'm playing, like the specific musical situation. So, like even that D shape, what I end up doing a lot is either muting the A string or just putting it in there because it's the fifth, right?
Yeah.
So it depends.
Nice. I think that's true for every guitar player.
Yeah.
It's really like
Steve Vai is like, his fingers are so long, his hand, that much of his
I've
index
seen a lot of
finger, but
players
his finger goes down to here.
Yeah, exactly. 9-inch long fingers. This one is from, this is not so much a question, but very nice comment, and I'm going to read it anyway. This is from the Dog Pal. I've played and taught for 40 years, and I wholeheartedly recommend this channel. I post hashtag Guitareo every time I get a chance. Good job, guys.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. That's awesome that you've been playing, and he said teaching for 40 years. Wow, that's amazing.
That's very cool, very cool. We appreciate it. Next one from Kieran. What would you believe is the best brand of guitar strings to use?
I don't think there is such a thing. I think it's what you like. Literally, the music store near us is along McQuaid, and we're in Canada. Same thing as Guitar Center, like the equivalent. And I would be fine with anything in there.
Absolutely.
That they have.
Yeah.
I use either Guidareos or Roto Sounds.
Yep.
Sometimes I don't mind elixirs. I really like the Guidareo EXPs, the coated ones, but they're freaking expensive.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I love DR strings. I used Ernie Ball strings for a long time. Now I'm pretty much all the way on Guidareo just for simplicity's sake.
Yeah, they're ubiquitous.
Yeah, they're kind of like the most popular around here. Next one from Joe. What are the best strings to use for a beginner, nylon or steel? That's like saying, should I start on acoustic or electric too, right? A lot of people say that starting on acoustic guitar is best for beginners. I don't necessarily think that. I think whichever one you're most drawn to and whichever one you're most excited about is the one you should go with because you're going to play more, you're going to enjoy it more. And it's kind of the same thing with nylon versus steel string. If you like the sound of a nylon string guitar and you want to maybe go for that sound, or if you want to go for fingerstyle more, you might want to do that. If you like the sound of steel string acoustic guitar, and you can play it fingerstyle on that just as much, then you might want to go with that. But I would go with whatever you like more and whatever matches like your musical goals as far as taste and genres of music. Yeah. That's definitely what I do. I would not put steel strings on a nylon string guitar. That's a quick way to ruin it. Oh yeah, very different tensions, yeah. This next one is from, on Facebook, but from our good friend DJ Temple.
Deej!
How about the classical guitarists and their finger style? How do they differ from the more contemporary styles? That's a good question.
I wouldn't say I'm struggling with this, but I am struggling with this a little bit right now because I'm kind of caught between two camps. A lot of fingerstyle guitarists, like Tommy Emmanuel, will use the thumb pick and they will rest the heel of their hand right here to keep track of where they are. That is not how I learned to play fingerstyle. I learned how to play classical guitar like this, floating hand. See, I can't even do it right now. Let's try it again. There we go. Now, I used to do that all the time. I used to be fairly good at it, but ever since I started kind of dabbling with thumb picks, I noticed that I have to plant my wrist on the guitar. And I also noticed that this lends to a greater amount of accuracy, or it's easier to be accurate, I think, with this, because you can tell where the strings are. When you're like this, you can't really tell where the strings are. Yeah. Especially if you have just one finger on the strings. It's a little bit harder, but it all depends what you're used to. But that, to me, is the biggest difference between like the classical guys. And it depends, certain techniques I can only do with classical stuff, like tremolo picking. Something like that. I can't do that with my heel planted, the heel of my hand planted. I cannot do it. So it just depends on what vein of music you're going into. Like, I wish I would have started with the thumb pick sooner, because the thing I love about like the more modern thumb pick style stuff is that I can go back and I can go from like a pick sound, right, and I can go right into finger picking. Yeah. So that's the biggest difference to me.
Very nice. That was a good question, DJ. Thank you. Okay, so now we've got about 30 more questions, which we don't have time for. So we are just going to try and get through them fast here. So I apologize if the answer is a little bit short. I didn't realize there'd be so many questions. Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, this one is from Curious George. I have a callus on my picking finger, my first finger, making the pick slip.
Yeah.
I cut about 1/4 of an inch off in a lawnmower when I was a kid. That sucks. How should I approach figuring out how to get a pick to work better?
One thing that immediately comes to mind, I don't know if this is going to apply to you or not, because it's kind of hard for me to imagine that as far as the whole finger situation. I have a friend who taught me, he's like, try pointing your finger at the guitar and then putting your pick on. And then I've had people tell me to curl my finger in and play too. So you might want to experiment with that. It'll take a while to get used to, like a couple weeks or a couple months, but experiment with either pointing your finger at the guitar to play or curling it in. That might help you.
Yeah, because curling it in, we're not on the fingertip anymore, right?
You're kind of on the pad, the side.
And the thing is the pick will slip when you strum because we're holding it pretty loose. Make little tiny learn to make little tiny micro adjustments as you're playing. Yeah. Very important. And maybe try some picks with more grip.
Yeah.
Could be a good one too. Okay, next one. This is from Vince. Have an electric guitar. So my question is, if you don't mind, what scale is the most commonly used on an electric guitar?
Minor pentatonic scale, man.
Yep, you can build a career on that scale.
Yep, I mean, as many have. Yep.
I would suggest starting with like an A minor pentatonic, and then you can literally just move the shape anywhere you want.
Yep.
It's awesome. Okay, next one, Anthony. Nate, it took a while to realize how important thumb position was. Over the top, little down, and center neck, really important for bar chords.
Yeah, if you're up here, more up here, it depends on your own natural body, but the way you're shaped and all that stuff. But if I'm up here, it's so hard to make that bar chord. If it's back here, the farther back it goes, the easier it gets. Here, not so, it's a little bit tougher here, tougher, but if you have your thumb right in the back of the neck for me, and then right behind your finger, that's the easiest spot for me to make like a full bar chord shape.
Nice.
Yep.
Next one, I like this name, Destroy the Human. What tips do you have for keeping people interested in the early stages? Some teachers struggle to keep early learners focused and passionate.
Learn songs as fast as possible. Start, like, one of the best things I like to do, if I'm teaching somebody, I'm like, make this chord. It's just a D chord, but it sounds like a song
Sounds
already,
like music already.
And I got that from a Paul Gilbert video. Paul Gilbert's a psychotic shredder.
Yeah.
But he's like, sometimes the best things, it's just a D chord.
I like it.
Cool.
Yeah, very good. Next one from Wayne. Beautiful guitar. What make and model?
It's a Taylor 814 CE.
Yeah, beautiful guitar. I agree. Next one is from Naveen. How much time should you practice to become the best guitarist?
Oh, no, like all of the virtuoso, my favorite guitarists, I went through a time period in their lives so they're practicing 6, 8, 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
If you want to be a very good guitarist and you're not practicing 1 or 2 hours a day, then I would say you're kidding yourself.
Yeah, or at least working up to getting to there. If you can't physically do it right away.
Not if you want to be a good guitar player. If you want to be like a great guitar player, you're not doing an hour or 2 a day, you're kidding yourself.
Yeah,
so.
Very nice.
Let me clarify that. You can make really good progress and play through songs and be a good guitar player playing 20 to 30 minutes a day if you're consistent with it.
Yeah, you're talking about being like
world class.
Yeah. Okay, next one. Oh, this is a good question. This is from Obert. I'm an intermediate player, still working on GTME, which is Guitar Technique Made Easy, which was from last year. Will I benefit from Acoustic Guitar Made Easy?
5 things. If you can do these 5 things, then you don't need Acoustic Guitar Made Easy. If you can figure out strumming patterns on your own, if you can make clean chords, change between all your chords smoothly, figure out songs on your own and play through them, like popular songs like the Beatles, the Eagles, and if you understand basic music theory, if you can do all those things, then you don't need Acoustic Guitar Made Easy.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Next one, this is from Jimmy. Wow, we're going to get through all these. Nice, I'm happy. Next one is from Jimmy. I use a humidifier for my guitar, but I'm wondering if it's possible to over-humidify my guitar.
I don't know, that's a good question. I know Guitareo makes like a digital hygrometer that you can put in your guitar case that will let you know. I would think you can, but I think it would be difficult indoors in a guitar case to over-humidify a guitar.
Yeah.
But you probably could.
So. I agree. Next one. Sorry, I keep jumping back and forth.
You pick your guitar up and it just...
Oh, yeah. Could you imagine?
Like a body that's been in a lake.
Scary. A body that's been in a lake. Okay, advice for the F bar chord.
Okay. First off, learn how to make a clean bar on its own first before trying to put the whole shape on. If you're brand new to guitar, or if you're brand new to bar chords, and you try to do this, that's one of the toughest, most physically demanding chords on the guitar, period. So if you try to jump into it without ever having made a bar before, it's going to be tough. Start off getting your bar technique right and building strength in your bar to where you can play it up and down like this, clean consistently, make sure you're right behind the fret, make sure to minimize the sound your creases are making on the strings to not mute them. Bring your elbow into the side of your body like this to get a better angle of attack, and then bring the guitar up again. And then once you can do that after a couple days, couple weeks, then start putting the shape with it. That'll help you a lot. Also, there are alternatives, shapes. You don't have to play the whole bar chord shape all the time.
Yep, very nice. Next one. So there are still more questions coming in. We're not going to get to any more, so I'm going to stop up at a point. I apologize. We're doing our best. This next one is from, this is another one from Destroy the Human. We'll give you another question. That's fine, because you got it in early.
Sounds like a band. That's a great band name.
It does sound like a band name. Maybe it is. When switching chords, what tips do you have for not making sound when pulling off? Sometimes I make open notes when pulling off of the strings.
Right, no, that's 100%. Like, that's a technique and a certain sound on the guitar. Like, right? A lot of people do that. The thing to do is to slow it way down, like just play quarter notes, really slow. Switch. And you have to be very intentional about it. Because when you start going to play pace like this, it gets a lot harder to not be like that. And kind of go through the same process, learning to change chords smoothly. That's like the ultimate final step of learning how to change chords smoothly, is to get rid of that open chord or open string blip out of there. And that is covered in Acoustic Guitar Made Easy, like in great detail. That's like your graduating thing for changing chords smoothly. But slow it way down, and then slowly speed it up with a metronome or a jam track or something. Very nice.
Okay, we got 3 more to go, looks like, about that. This one is from Trinidadu. Sorry, I probably messed that up. Any device you recommend to continue practicing without your guitar, like at work, on a lunch break, or whatever?
Your brain. No, seriously. One thing that I feel like I can never do good enough is to memorize the names of the notes on the fretboard, like to where I know them perfectly. Like, that's an A, right? So like, I'll do this if I'm having trouble sleeping. I'll think of the names of the notes on the fretboard. I will spell chords. I'll spell scales. I'll go through triad shapes up and down the fretboard. Things like that. I'll go through chord progressions in certain keys. But like, there are a lot of things you can do when you're away from the guitar that are very important to developing your guitar skills. Even like practicing simple chord progressions in your head on the guitar can help.
All right, next one. This is from Richard. I am 62 years old, been trying to practice 15 minutes a day and just started learning. Great. When does it get easier to go or change between chords, go sabers?
Go sabers. You're on the right track. Maybe try to push your practice to either one of two things. Either try to push your practice to 20 or 25 minutes a day, or do 15 minutes in the morning and 10 or 15 minutes in the evening. That'll help you retain things better because you're forcing yourself to recall the things on the guitar more. And one thing that I really push here is the tip that I gave you for making clean sounding open or clean chord transitions. The first tip is know the individual chord shapes very well before trying to switch between them. So make sure that you can go to your G major chord pretty good on its own first before trying to switch between a G and a C. Make sure you have the G and the C down on their own first. And then once you have that down, after a couple weeks of working on switching between them, you should have it down if you get the chord shapes on their own down first.
Definitely. Okay, one from Victoria. What type of guitar is most suitable for a small person? My fingers are not strong enough to do chords like B major, F sharp, G minor.
Well, there's a couple things you can do. You may have like a steel string acoustic guitar or electric guitar. If you do, you can get lighter strings put on that guitar so it's a little bit easier for you to play. if it's a matter of pushing the strings down. If that's what you're talking about, that's one option for you. You can take it to the music store, get them to put like maybe some 11s, some custom lights on your acoustic guitar. If you're talking about like the size of the body for yourself, guitars like a Taylor GS Mini or a Martin, I think it's LXM, I can't remember the name of it, but like they make them like a 3/4 size Martin too. They're really good for smaller people. My wife's 5'1" and she likes smaller guitars. So.
Okay, so that ends it for the guitar-related questions. I pulled out 2 questions from there that I want to answer now because it's a good segue into talking about Acoustic Guitar Made Easy a little bit. So the first one, this is from Josh. He wrote it in caps, saying caps lock, so you'll notice me. Will Nate be bringing in a second registration period for the 26-week course? Also, just as a side note, is Nate his nickname for Nathaniel?
My name is Nathan, not Nathaniel, although people assume that a lot sometimes. And Andrew would know the other part of that question better than I would. So.
Most likely, probably not. We did a second semester with GTME last year, which was a bit of an anomaly. Basically, the way this course works, and we'll talk about it here in a second, but it requires so much of Nate's time to be dedicated to, because the whole idea is that he is at your beck and call all the time. You can email him whenever you want, and you get like all the advice you want from Nate. You can send him videos, you can do all that stuff. So we can't really run like multiple courses at once because Nate's the only guy that can do it. So what that means is for the next 26 weeks, which is like 6 months, Nate is stuck doing this course. Right. That's who his focus is on, right? If that makes sense. So maybe in 6 months from now, maybe, but it depends. It totally just depends. If there's interest, maybe. If there's not, then maybe we'll do something else. We'll do something for electric guitarists or something else. So we don't know for sure yet. But I would say if you feel like it's the right course, definitely, if you want to make sure you get it, now is the time for sure. Because
like we start on Monday?
We start Monday, which is in what, 3 days? And that's when week 1 starts. So the first lesson goes out with the assignment and stuff like that, and then the whole class will kind of start together. And just so you know, I don't know if you do know this, but there's payment plan options and stuff like that too. So if you can't do it all at once, we can figure something out. Yep. Okay. Then the next question, which is also about Acoustic Guitar Made Easy, is from Steve. What is the difference between the Guitareo lessons and your recent acoustic guitar made easy? I purchased Guitareo about 3 years ago.
Okay, cool. Guitareo is like an ever-expanding encyclopedia. It's interactive though, because we're always in there with live lessons, the forum, comments. You can email us anytime, but you kind of pick your own path and you go along and just go at it. Acoustic Guitar Made Easy is very, very specific with the goal of having you be able to play through 5 popular songs.
What 5 songs are there?
The Beatles, Let It Be, Take It Easy by the Eagles, Jambalaya by Hank Williams, Brown Eyed Girl, and I'll tell you the other one in a second.
Do you want me to? I can look it up for you.
Make sure. Let's see. Oh, did I say that? Yeah, I said that.
I can pull them up here just so that we have them all to make sure.
Van Morrison, Brown Eyed Girl, Let It Be.
Horse with No Name.
Horse with No Name.
That's the other one.
That's the first one. Yeah. First one that you learned.
Yeah.
And it's cool because we have full jam tracks. I got my wife to sing on them, so there's actual words to sing with. And then the way we have it worked out with the licensing is the final test/thing to do before moving on is playing with the original track.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. We've never been able to do something like that before. This is like the first time, so we're pretty excited about it.
Finally, after 10 years of being asked, we figured it out.
The idea with acoustic, and we can jump into talking a little bit about the course now, but the idea is just when you sign up for like an online site, so like Guitareo, stuff like that, you have all of these lessons. We have like learning paths for you and stuff like that, and you can go in and you can follow along, you can ask questions and stuff like that. It's pretty straightforward, but it's more of like a do-it-yourself thing, so you can kind of pick, okay, I'm gonna practice this, and then I feel like I'm ready to move on, I'll move on to something else. It's not super like, this is what you do. If you do this, you will succeed. Yeah. Just because that is pretty hard to do with like a big group of people. So with Acoustic Guitar Made Easy, it is obviously a specific focus on acoustic guitar. It totally works for electric too, but the focus is on acoustic guitar. It is every single Monday. You get a new lesson. It has specific assignments that are built for you to practice for that week until the next Monday. Yeah. right? So it's very straightforward. The lessons are quite a bit longer. I think every lesson, ranges from
20 to 30 minutes.
Yeah, so it's like, I mean, really,
it's like a private lesson.
It's like a private lesson, which can be $1,200 a year, like something crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, you pay $50 to $100 probably a month on lessons. So it's similar to that experience, at least for online, which is kind of the closest that we could do because we've wanted to do something like this for a long time. But you can send Nate videos of yourself. He'll give you feedback, advice. He'll post videos. You guys will have your own private like session hangout.
I do lots of video responses too.
Yeah. So it's just it's more for those people. We've talked about it, and it's basically if you're brand new, it's perfect. If you literally never picked up a guitar and want to, it is perfect for you. If you maybe have tried before and you've kind of failed, or you've had problems, you've run into issues, especially on those 5 issues, that is directly addressed in the course, so it would be perfect. It'll get you back on your feet and stuff like that. And I would say if you're more advanced but you're missing one of those kind of pillars, or 2 or 3, definitely jump back in, because that foundation is what basically, if you're missing a piece of that foundation, which I mean, even from a personal level, I did not learn music theory, and it took me a bunch of extra time to go back and learn the stuff. If you're not building on that perfect foundation really early on, you're kind of gimping yourself for the future a little bit. Right. Am I missing anything about it? I'm just trying to kind of off the cuff it a little bit.
I don't think so. I'm not the kind of person that likes to brag at all. But to me, I have not seen a better way to learn acoustic guitar online. And a lot of that is due kind of to Jared Falk's influence on this course with what he did with, I forget the name.
Todd Suckerman?
No, the one before, the one that he did.
Bruce Becker with Drum Technique Made Easy.
Drum Technique Made Easy, because no, Independence Made Easy. That was the first one.
Okay, that's right. Yeah,
but he really dissected things and made it super simple. Like, you're only getting 26 lessons with assignments in them, and that's better than like a massive library. If you had trouble playing guitar, if you've never played before, that's better than a massive library where you feel like, oh dear God, I'm never going to get to the end of these lessons. I don't know what to practice next, that type of thing. So it's a really big portion of that is due to his heavy influence on this, and then just the amount of research and time that went in to setting this up, structuring it, and then producing it too. There's some really cool things on. I think that we're going to be releasing this week some little clips of really kind of cinematic, inspirational things too in it.
Yeah, we're really excited about it. I would say we've probably never been more excited about doing something like this before. So it's really cool.
It's going to help a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. So if you guys want to check it out, you can check out like the full trailer and get more info. There'll be a link below the live video that you're watching on YouTube, and then there's one I think above on Facebook. So even if you just want to check out the trailer and just kind of see what it's all about, get a breakdown, go for it. You can also email Andrew at Guitareo.com, Nate at Guitareo.com. You can also support at Guitareo.com, and people would love to answer your questions. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Other than that, it's really fun to do live stuff like this.
Yeah,
like, this is so different,
like,
right?
The YouTube questions, like when I've done a couple of live streams over the past couple of weeks, they're just like, by the end of them, I almost don't have a voice.
Yeah,
there's so many questions.
It's awesome. So, I mean, if you guys like this type of thing, it's hard for us to do this outside of our normal live stuff we do for the members and stuff. Let us know. Send us an email and let us know. We'd love to maybe do more of them if enough people want them. So, okay, guys. Well, thank you all for coming out. I'm sorry if we didn't get to your questions, and thank you for those of you who did ask questions. That was really awesome. Should we play our way out?
Yep, I'm going to play a song that's taught an acoustic guitar made easy, and Andrew's going to just do a little improv over it.
I'll play over it. Sounds good.